Members, this is the second session of the meetings for the Special Finance Committee meetings. So this session is about Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. We welcome Ms. Janice Che, the Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, and her team. I will first invite the Secretary to take us through her work, and then I will open the floor for questions. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button now. And I'll give the floor to the Secretary, who will give us the brief introduction. Thank you, Chairman. I will now take members through the highlights of the estimates of the Constitutional and Mainland Affairs for the year 2026 to 27. For this financial year, the provision for the CMAB is roughly $876.7 million. Our work is as follows. First, public elections. Last year, we held first the election committee subsector by-elections and then the Legislative Council general election. Both elections came to a successful conclusion after a fair, just, honest, safe, and orderly process. The overall polling and counting experience was very positive. This year, we will continue to work closely with the Electoral Affairs Commission on the preparations for the 2026 Election Committee subsector ordinary elections and the advanced preparations for the 2027 Chief Executive election and 2027 District Council ordinary election. We will continue to ensure that those elections remain successful after a fair, open, honest, safe, orderly, efficient, and user-friendly process. Second, patriotic education. The ACR government values the preservation and promotion of patriotism in Hong Kong. We are determined to foster the mainstream values that are centered on love for our country and love of Hong Kong and consistent with the policy of one country, two systems. The working group on patriotic education was set up in 2024. Since then, the working group has looked at Hong Kong's actual circumstances and laid down the short, medium, to long-term work objectives and policy measures. One measure was to strengthen the promotion of patriotism with the 80th anniversary of the War of Resistance last year. The highlights of our work this year will include encouraging more students and young people from Hong Kong to visit patriotic education facilities in the mainland, and more such bases will become part of our patriotic education bases. The ACR government will also forge close ties with patriotic bodies. We will continue to advance various measures on patriotic education so that we take an incremental approach defined by sustained efforts to patriotic education so as to foster a fondness for and a sense of belonging to our country. Third, promoting the Constitution and the Basic Law. The PRC's Constitution is the root and origin of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and the Basic Law. These instruments form the constitutional basis and order of the ACR. The ACR government will continue to work through the Constitution and Basic Law Promotion Steering Committee. We will adopt a range of approaches and adopt innovative means to promote the Constitution and the Basic Law and national security legislation. So the work will include massive outdoor publicity, short videos, the use of online platforms. We will also fund research and hold physical events to deepen the awareness of the community of this constitutional basis of the SAR and one country, two systems. Third, the 15th five-year plan. In March this year, the fourth session of the 14th National People's Congress approved the outline of the 15th five-year plan for national economic and social development of the People's Republic of China. This is the blueprint and action plan for our country's socio-economic development in the next 5 years. The five-year plan outlines several points about fostering Hong Kong's long-term prosperity and stability and deepening the development of the Greater Bay Area. The outline also pledges support for Hong Kong to hone its competitive edge so that Hong Kong can leverage its advantage in having our country's support in global connectivity so that we can better integrate into and contribute to national development. To fully align with our country's 15th five-year plan, the SAR government will move full steam ahead to draw up a macroscopic, strategic, and forward-looking five-year plan for the first time for Hong Kong. This year, we will complete this plan. Our five-year plan will be a collective action framework that will set out Hong Kong's development vision, core objectives, key areas, and major initiatives over the next 5 years. The formulation will be led by the Chief Executive. The primary responsibility rests with the CMAB. All senior officials will fully commit to this task together. Under the executive-led model, we have created a mechanism for the government and the Legislative Council to collaborate in research and gathering views. This is to give play to the positive interaction between executive bodies and the legislature as partners supporting each other. And that will help us complete our first 5-year plan this year. The CMAB will work with the relevant subcommittee from LegCo to take forward and implement this mechanism. The focus is to gather views and analyze the views. For this task, the SCR government will work with LegCo members on consultation sessions. So we will invite stakeholders and specialists from specific policy areas to take part and offer their views. We will continue with the formulation of the 5-year plan for Hong Kong. We will seek views from all sides. We will look into the views and spare no effort in the work so that we can actively align with our country's 15th 5-year plan. Fifth, the Greater Bay Area. The National 15th 5-year plan expressly mentions that we have to consolidate and enhance the role of the GBA as engines. We have to strengthen technological innovation, economic development, public services. Specifically, we have to work on harmonizing rules and mechanisms. We need stronger legal safeguards, and we have to serve as a platform to pilot major collaborative projects so that we move faster in building a top-notch Bay Area by global standards and create a world-class city cluster. The SCR government will remain proactive in its approach by working closely with the central authorities, the Guangdong provincial authorities, and the Macau SCR government. We will deepen the harmonization of rules and mechanisms. We will foster the efficient flow of essential factors of production such as people, materials, funds, and information in the area. We will also strive for more policy breakthroughs, fostering GBA integration and offering concessions for Hong Kong so that we can support our country's cause in further deepening reform and high standard opening up. We will work with Guangdong and Macau closely to turn the GBA into a strategic fulcrum of the new national development pattern, a demonstration zone of high-quality development and the pioneer of Chinese modernization. We will continue to tell the stories of the GBA well and promote the vast opportunities of the GBA development. Sixth, mainland offices. On this front, we have 5 mainland offices and 11 liaison units. These offices and units will continue to deepen exchanges and tie-ups with the mainland provinces and cities in areas such as trade and commerce, finance, innovative technology, creative industries, and youth exchange so that they can support the SAR in integrating into and contributing to our national development. The mainland offices will step up work on telling Hong Kong's story well and promote Hong Kong's unique edge and opportunities in having our country's support and global connections. They will encourage and attract mainland businesses and talent to come here, and they will support the work of the Go Global Task Force. Those offices will also tap more opportunities for Hong Kong residents and Hong Kong businesses in the mainland. These mainland offices will also talk to groups of Hong Kong residents in the mainland as well as business organizations, businesses, and student bodies. The offices will provide them with information and appropriate support. These officers will also talk to mainland authorities about the views and needs of Hong Kong residents and businesses in the mainland. On the rights of the individual, the subvention for the Equal Opportunities Commission, or EOC, and the Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data makes up the bulk of our Bureau's estimates. The EOC administers the 4 ordinances against discrimination. The provision for the EOC in 2026-27 is $128.8 million. The EOC will continue to promote messages of mutual respect and diversity as well as inclusion through multiple means in a collective effort to foster social harmony and stability. As for the Office of the Commissioner for Personal Data, their provision for 2026-27 will be $95.8 million. The office will adopt various means to crack down on doxing. As at February this year, the office had launched criminal investigation into 543 cases of suspected doxing, mounted 82 arrest operations, and arrested 84 people. Moreover, the office also issued over 2,100 cessation notices to 57 online platforms in total, with requests to remove almost 333,000 doxing messages. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the office. The office will launch a series of publicity and education campaigns to raise public awareness of protecting personal data. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. My team and I welcome questions from members. Thank you. Thank you. 16 members. In fact, 17 members are waiting to speak. Here's the lineup. Mr. Andrew Yao, Ms. Carmen Khan, Professor Chen Kwong, Mr. Andrew Fan, Mr. Perry Yu, Mr. Scott Leung, Dr. Thomas So, Ms. Nixie Lam, Mr. Brave Chen, Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Mr. Hong Kam In, Mr. Wu Yingpeng, Mr. Lau Ka Kang, Dr. Johnny Ng, Mr. Jonathan Leung, Mr. Dennis Leung, and Mr. Nick Chan. Let's do 4 minutes per member, questions and answers inclusive. We will start with Mr. Yao, CMA B004. So this is about extra funding to support the Go Global Task Force. This is a key area for our upcoming work. I have been calling for support for leading enterprises from the mainland to go global, and that means the champions in specific industries. Those businesses have what it takes to go global. So how many leading mainland enterprises have we attracted, especially those in high-end manufacturing and biotech? How many such businesses have we attracted to Hong Kong to set up regional HQs in Hong Kong and go global? To attract such businesses, we need more manpower for the 5 mainland offices. We need veterans to do the work. So what sort of people do we look for those offices? Those offices should forge ties over the long term, and the people from those businesses live in the mainland for the long term. So have we considered looking for people who know the mainland well, those who spend time there over a long term? Secretary. In 2025, we completed 255 investment promotion projects in the mainland, and that involved helping mainland businesses set up a presence in Hong Kong or expand their businesses in Hong Kong. The Commerce and Economic Development Bureau has also done work on this area. We help coordinate the work involving Invest Hong Kong as well as various bodies to come up with a range of solutions to help mainland businesses looking to go global to come here so that they can leverage Hong Kong's global connections and our rules which are aligned with global practice. The Go Global Task Force also holds various events in mainland provinces and cities, so they will focus on Hong Kong's strengths. Our mainland offices are planning different projects with the mainland authorities on the work for the Global Task Force. These mainland offices look at the specific needs of each locality and business so that they can bring different businesses to Hong Kong, and those businesses can go on to go global. Our mainland offices also invite different people from the industry and also from Hong Kong for exchange sessions. On Mr. Andrew Yao's views, those views can be considered by the mainland offices in promoting the work. Any follow-up? No. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Chairman. CMAB 031 and 032. So my questions have to do with the resources of the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. So in 2025, there were 265 notices of data leaks involving both public and private bodies. Public bodies, 79 cases, and 167 leaks for private bodies. And that represents an increase. Over the past couple of weeks, we saw data leakage incidents from both public and private bodies. There is no mandatory requirement about notifying the office, and the law does not apply to third-party contractors. So what the cases we see may be just the tip of the iceberg. For 2026 and 27, there will be $95.8 million. That's the provision, and that represents a decrease from before. So I have a question about the resources. Now, my second question is that for years, we've been told about an amendment to the PDPO. We have been updated on the progress since 2022, and even this year, we're told about getting an update on this. But there's a pressing need for the legislative amendment. There is no mandatory reporting at the moment, and we do not regulate contractors, so we are left exposed when it comes to privacy and data security.
Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Every year, the government will make suitable adjustments based on public finances, the estimates and recurrent funding that would cover the PCPD. The PCPD will implement various measures to make sure with their resources they can efficiently execute their functions. The CMAB also constantly reviews the needs for the work of the PCPD. If necessary, we will give a one-off funding to the PCPD. As for legislative amendments, as Ms. Khan said, we have been looking with the PCPD to see what we can do in enhancing relevant legislation. Perhaps I'll ask the Commissioner to supplement information on this. We are working closely with the government to enhance the personal data privacy ordinance. Our preliminary proposal is to set up, as the member suggested, a mandatory reporting mechanism and have direct regulation of information handlers, and we ask information users to set time limits for retention of personal information, as well as empower the Commissioner in regulation. We have conducted extensive consultations. We have consulted our advisory committees as well as different stakeholders. From what we heard, stakeholders thought under the current economic circumstances, it can impose a cost burden on SMEs, which is why the government and the PCPD are actively reviewing the preliminary proposals to see if we can implement the measures in phases, as well as putting in place a pecuniary penalty mechanism, so that while we can increase deterrence, the penalties are at an acceptable level. We hope to give a report to the LegCo on the details within this year. Professor Chen Wing-Kwong, I want to follow up on 065, also about prevention of information leaks. And according to the reply, in the past 3 years, we have citizen complaints as well as proactive reporting by bodies. There is an increasing number of information leak cases, and the Hospital Authority Kowloon East Cluster also had a leak of personal information of patients that has raised concern in society. According to the presentation, we have for the PCPD an allocation of $95.8 million. How can we make good use of the funding to respond to the challenges brought about by the digital era on privacy protection, and what kind of measures we can have for organizations such as the Hospital Authority, which is a large body and has a large amount of personal information, to enhance personal data protection so that we won't have information leaks to protect citizens. I also want to ask about 059. It is on voter registration. It is a question of mine. There is no direct answer from the administration on the numbers of voters. I was asked to check the dedicated website for voter registration. I did look at the website and I found that in the past 5 years we have seen a decreasing number of registered voters. That is from 2021 to 2025, we have 330,000 less voters. So has the administration reviewed why we have a decreasing number of registered voters and how the administration can be more proactive to encourage people to register as voters? Thank you. Secretary, thank you. Chair, thank you, member, for the questions. About work on preventing leak of personal information, we have the PCPD doing much on publicity. They have also been liaising with enterprises, information collectors, and users to promote how we can prevent data breaches and what they should do in case of data breaches. I will ask the commissioners to supplement information in due course. As for what Professor Chen asked about voter registration, I will ask the REO representative to answer the relevant question. All right, I'll ask the commissioner to speak first. Thank you, Chair. In the past few years, we have indeed seen an increasing number of data breaches. After receiving notification from bodies, we will conduct an investigation. We will also conduct compliance checks. We also take proactive operations to promote data security. We have also been enhancing education. We held seminars, workshops. We have also enhanced cooperation with enterprises. In March this year, we held an AI security and cybersecurity summit to provide to enterprises, especially SMEs, some useful recommendations on data security. We have also the data security hotline, the data security website, as well as some self-assessment tools for enterprises to test their capabilities on cybersecurity. We also have plans to launch a free website scanning service this year. Apart from holding talks, we also disseminate guidelines on data security. For example, how to handle data breaches and some reporting guidelines. To take a more prevention-oriented approach, we have also enhanced enforcement. We have stepped up compliance checks and inspections to make sure information users comply with the relevant requirements in the Personal Data Privacy Ordinance. Due to time constraints, we'll ask the REO representative to provide written answer to Professor Chen thereafter. I want to ask about 013 and 029. First, on 013, it is about promoting constitution and basic law. I can see in paragraph 6, we have for the research activity and promotion activity and research sponsorship scheme, there is a decrease in the number of funding. We have in 2024-25, 87 applications, 24 were approved. 2025-2026, we have also less than half of the projects being approved. So can the administration tell me about the approval criteria, why so many organizations cannot have their projects approved? I have also been promoting using a soft approach in promoting constitution and the basic law so that students will be interested. Has the administration considered making use of computer games or interactive games to promote constitution and basic law? Would you consider, if not, to allocate some funding to make use of such technology to promote better the relevant laws? And on 029, on exchanges of youth between Hong Kong and mainland youth, the administration said they would provide appropriate support, but can the administration move a further step to have, for example, partners working with the education Bureau so that we can have Hong Kong youth taking part in mainland exchange activities to visit mainland offices? Can we also have more exchange activities so that Hong Kong youth can interact with Hong Kongers in the mainland so that they know better what the life is living in the mainland? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Fan, for the questions. On promoting Constitution and the Basic Law, we have actively encouraged different sectors of the community to have diversified promotion activities. With the sponsorship scheme, it makes use of the creativity of civic society and different professions to promote the Constitution and Basic Law. We have sponsored projects including games or school competitions, as well as some comic design competitions. We believe these are already quite entertaining and attractive to youngsters. We have plans to make more use of digital media so that youngsters can have innovative approaches in learning more about the Constitution and Basic Law. When vetting the project proposals, the government will see whether the proposals are creative, whether they can truly target the youth, and whether the projects are feasible. For each round of applications, the number of projects approved will not be restrained by the funding per se. We would look at the projects to make sure we can meet the targets. There's no rigid funding constraint actually. On youth exchange activities, I will have a brief response. I'll just do a brief response. We do have youngsters visiting mainland offices so that they can find out more about the work of mainland offices. Thank you. Mr. Yu Patlang, I want to ask about 057. Chair, the mainland offices are how the government can truly promote Hong Kong's advantages. It is a platform for such, and we have seen good results so far. And I'm very happy to hear that in the past 3 years, we have achieved great results for different performance indicators. But I also have some suggestions. In future, we should not only strive for meeting the quantitative targets. We want to make sure, say, mainland offices can help introduce enterprises to Hong Kong and promote youth exchanges and bring more visitors to Hong Kong. I'd also note that in the reply, we have for the 2025-2026 targets that we should have 3,400 visits to authorities in the mainland. I think we need to make good use of resources to ensure there is synergy achieved through resource sharing. Does the Bureau have more plans for cooperation so that we can have a more focused approach in promotion activities?
Secretary, I thank Mr. Yu for his questions. The mainland offices work on a variety of matters. They may hold their own events or co-host events with other bodies. Those events take many forms, exchange sessions, and other functions other than attracting investments and businesses. when we measure their success, it's hard to refer to hard figures. We don't just look at the number of visits. It's hard to quantify the output of their work. Hong Kong residents and businesses in the mainland have different views and needs. Our offices talk to them. We tweak our promotion and publicity so that we can achieve better outcomes. On the details of those events, I will invite Ms. Mandy Wong, Deputy Secretary, to tell us more. On the events held by our mainland offices, so attracting investments and businesses and talking to Hong Kong residents in the mainland are the focus of the work of the mainland offices. Hong Kong residents in the mainland attend meetings of trade organizations. Those Hong Kong residents tell us about the challenges as they try to do business in the mainland. We also work together on business promotion. The day-to-day work of the mainland offices involves frequent contact with Hong Kong residents in the mainland. We keep gathering feedback and we follow up on the views. Thank you. Mr. Scott Leung, CMAB 064. Especially about the funding for the Legislative Council general election. So the reply says we achieved savings based on the revised estimate. Now for the other expenses, I saw costs of manning polling counting stations and staff costs. So within the same area, there may be 2 polling stations. So the local residents have to adapt to a new and different polling station. And sometimes 2 polling stations are very close by, and a local resident may go to the wrong station, and they don't want to go to the other one. So this arrangement dents the enthusiasm for voting. I understand there are constraints about the capacity of polling stations, but we also have to bear in mind the need to make life easier for local residents. I'm talking about 2 polling stations right next to each other. Having more polling stations may save you some time in counting, but you need more money to rent the venue. So that's false economy. So can we do a better job to achieve greater savings? My next question is related to this point. When you have more voters at the polling station, you need more time for counting. So that's a matter about the efficiency of the counting. Now, there is an electronic polling register for the geographical constituencies, but we have yet to achieve electronic vote counting. So can we bring in technology to aid the electoral process? Can we speed things up and make work less stressful for frontline workers and in the end save money? Secretary. I thank Mr. Leung for his questions. The CMAB works closely with the EAC, or Electoral Affairs Commission. We want to ensure our elections are conducted in a safe and orderly manner. We're open to new technologies to aid the electoral procedure. At the recent electoral general election, for the functional constituencies, we adopted electronic vote counting, and the experience was good. On adopting new technologies, we want reliability. large-scale adoption of technology, meaning adopting the technology in geographical constituencies and the election committee constituency, given its scale, will require greater caution in implementation, and we have to be very detailed in our plans. We will continue to work with the EAC on exploring ways where we can make the process more user-friendly and efficient. On the delineation of polling stations, I will invite the Chief Electoral Officer, Ms. Natalie Chen, to tell us more. Thank you. On arranging the venues of polling stations, we have to consider the size of the stations and the capacity of each station. We want to make life easier for voters. In some cases, the delineation may cause confusion for voters. So for the upcoming district council election, we will review the venues of these polling stations. We thank Mr. Leung's views and we will look into this. Dr. Thomas So, CMAB 047 and 048. These are questions about protecting privacy. Two other members have commented on this point. Recently, there have been data leakage incidents involving public bodies, and that's fueling concerns. My question is that when it comes to adopting technology in Hong Kong, will the Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data increase inspections and checks? Apparently, the reply says that there are annual checks covering both public and private bodies. For public bodies, for instance, the hospital authority, these bodies possess vast amounts of personal data. So on this matter, will the PCPD consider regular checks, in fact mandatory checks for bodies sitting on vast amounts of data, and would that lead to extra costs? The provision for the PCPD is a modest sum after all. Now for data leakage involving public bodies, those bodies let the PCPD know and then you take action. Normally the law enforcement bodies follow up and they prosecute the culprits. So how will the PCPD require those public bodies to mend their ways? We have seen several such leakage incidents. How do we measure the success of the improvement measures adopted by the public bodies? Thank you. The Privacy Commissioner will take the questions. Thank you. On CMAB 047 and 048. The spot checks involve the handling of personal data because of the use of artificial intelligence. We have performed compliance checks on roughly 90 bodies on the use of AI and data governance. On an annual basis, in 2025, we conducted more than 400 compliance checks. The reason for such compliance checks was that we spotted an upward trend of data leakage incidents. We wanted to help organizations with prevention. We also wanted to get a sense of their data protection measures. During such compliance checks, we also give advice to these organizations so that they can step up their data protection measures. On Dr. So's second question, that question has to do with what happens after data leakage incidents involving public bodies. So we get notified, and then we investigate or we proceed with a compliance check. If we find a breach of the PDPO, we look at the gravity of the case, we may issue a warning letter, an advisory letter, or an enforcement notice. If it is an enforcement notice or one of those letters, we also provide advice or instructions to the body involved. We require the body involved to rectify their data protection policy. Afterwards, we will require proof showing us that they have taken those steps. Last year, for at-risk organizations, we performed on-site inspections to make sure those bodies took those data security precautions. Ms. Nixie Lam. Thank you. CMAB 047 and 026. I want to start with 047. Starting from 2024, the PCPD has been conducting compliance checks on the use of AI. So AI was hardly commonplace 2 years ago, but there has been an explosive change since then. I'm looking at the figures from 28 to 60 when it comes to compliance checks for organizations. I'd expect that number to go up. So roughly how many organizations do we expect to cover for these checks, and how far will we go with these checks? The question mentions at-risk industries. The reply is generic. It simply says such and such work will be done. When it comes to finance, legal services, and healthcare, the public may have higher expectations in terms of data protection. So they fall in a different category than cases involving simply retail. So how will we conduct the compliance checks? Will those checks be different? Now on 026, that question has to do with our 5-year plan. Have we set aside funding for our 5-year plan and for the events related to the work? So do we factor in the costs and manpower involved into the departmental expenses, or do we set aside a separate estimate just for the 5-year plan? Secretary, I will start with the question about our 5-year plan. For the first time, we are aligning with our country's 5-year plan. This is our first attempt to draw up our 5-year plan. The chief executive leads the work. The primary responsibility rests with the CMAB, but all senior officials will fully commit to the task. The promotion and the publicity about the 5-year plan will involve massive input of manpower and resources from different bureaus. The work will be covered by the recurrent funding for different bureaus, so we don't have a dedicated standalone allocation just for the 5-year plan. On specific checks for at-risk industries, the Privacy Commissioner will take the question. On the impact of AI on personal data privacy, we started the checks in 2023. We have completed 2 rounds of checks over the past few years, covering nearly 90 organizations. In the second round, we expanded the coverage. We added at-risk sectors such as healthcare, social service, public utilities. In our checks, we adopt a risk-based approach. We consider the types and nature of data handled by an organization. If sensitive data are involved, we then look at the data protection policy of such an organization. So we have taken those factors into account in our checks. For this year, we have started our 3rd round of checks. we are examining the approach taken by 60 organizations to the use of AI. We look at their governance policy, and we look at whether they are adhering to our guidelines. Thank you.
多謝主席。
Mr. Rob Chen or Mr. Chen Yung. Thank you. I want to follow up on questions 011029 and 061. We have the Secretary touch on the 5-year plan issue. I understand different provinces and municipalities would have close communication with, say, the Development and Reform Commission, as well as other central ministries and authorities, to make sure there is good division of work. I think you need to increase manpower and resources because this will involve much work. We also need to consult the national organizations in Hong Kong, such as the NPC deputies as well as CPPCC representatives, so that we can be more targeted with the promulgation of Hong Kong's 5-year plan. On elections, we have made use of electronic ballot counting in the last district council election that has worked quite well. We did not say this specifically in the estimates for district council election because they are mostly geographical or directly elected members. Can we make it more electronic to save manpower and resources? It can also make the election fairer and more open. Secretary, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for the questions. There is much to do for the drafting of the 5-year plan. Under the leadership of the Chief Executive, we have also the advice of the LegCo. We will consult different sectors that would include NPC deputies, CPPCC representatives, as well as different organizations and stakeholders to collect their opinions for such work. It does not only involve the CMAB. We will have different heads of departments take part. With existing resource allocation, we can already do such surveys and consultations. There is really no need for additional funding. On enhancing electoral arrangements, the district council election will be held at the end of 2027. We will detail the estimates for supporting the district council election in next year's budget. But I would like to clarify something. Elections would take several years of preparation and planning. We are making use of advanced and innovative technologies such as electronic ballot counting and different arrangements such as manpower arrangements saw changes with the use of technology. We have already invested in some equipment for elections, and the funding would have already come from previous year's budgets. Mr. Lam Chun Sing, thank you, Chair. I want to ask about 062 and 063. And we can see in the last term for LegCo election, we have seen an increase in expenditure by 30% costing $1.1 billion, and manpower costs alone cost $300 million. It is $100 million more than the election in 2021. We have different sectors, election arrangements change that should have saved manpower. But why do we still have a manpower cost of $300 million? It is more than the election before, mind you. And for the election committee subsector election this year, the budget is $260 million. It is also 40% higher than before. The manpower cost alone was $130 odd million. It is 40% more than the last election 5 years ago. Is there more room for improvement since seeing there is such a high manpower cost? We do see ballot counting still take quite long too. For election committee, we would have approximately 9,000 voters. I hope that with the election this year, we will have at least a comparable cost. Thank you, Secretary. I will first give a brief response. I will then ask the Deputy Secretary to supplement information on this. Let me say this. As I said earlier, electoral expenses funding would span several years, as elections take several years to prepare. So we have already, for say equipment or devices, the funding of which coming from a few years before. So if we compare expenditures of different years alone, it may not show the full picture. I will ask my colleague to supplement information on this. Thank you, Mr. Lam, for the questions. With the increase in expenditure for personal emoluments, I would like to say this. With advancement of technology, we have, for this purpose, engaged technology personnel to make sure we can make good use of advanced technology. We have also introduced different publicity activities. We held election forums that were not held before to enhance publicity. It has resulted in an increase in costs. We've also rented some venues that are not government premises. As you may note, there is a significant component of the expenditure being the relocation of the REO because the original premises in Kowloon Bay were being demolished, and we also therefore have to rent new premises. We also need to make sure the premises comply with different standards such as fire safety. It has contributed to the increase in the overall expenditure. We have, for the budget of election committee elections, being $220 million. This is just an estimate because the election will take place at the end of this year. There may be appropriate adjustments with different factor changes. Thank you, Mr. Hong Kam. And I want to follow on 011, this question of Mr. Tam, and we have another question. There is another question I want to follow up on, that is 026. We are actively trying to tie in with the National 15 5-year plan. The country has also promulgated laws on development planning. This should be a good reference for are drawing up of the local 5-year plan. And with the relevant laws in the country, it says development planning should be innovative. It should make good use of modern information technology. It should also leverage on the advantages of tertiary institutions, R&D bodies. And we have the election committee being one of the groups that can really be a think tank for us, because they have many of those in the R&D sector and different industry associations. How can the government work with the election committee members better so that they can have their feedback on drafting the city's 5-year plan? We should not draft the plan behind closed doors. We should communicate and work with different mainland bodies such as the National Development and Reform Commission. The government should make sure they have good coordination. How can we enhance mainland liaison? Do we need to allocate more funding, say, for the transportation costs? Can we also enhance liaison with mainland think tanks to make sure there is good coordination with different Greater Bay Area cities, perhaps even the whole Guangdong province? Thank you. Secretary, thank you for the questions. With the National 15 5-year plan promulgated, we really need to expedite the progress of drafting of the city's 5-year plan. This will be a key initiative of the government this year. Under the leadership of a chief executive, as I said earlier, we have been working with LegCo, and we have a consultation mechanism in place. Under the mechanism, we will get in touch with those in different sectors so that we can collect their feedback on what the city's 5-year plan should cover. Once we collected opinions, we will analyze them and consolidate them. We have also different exchange channels with central ministries and bodies, including the National Development and Reform Commission. We are trying to really learn from their experience to see how different places have their 5-year plans, how different provinces and municipalities are trying to align with the National 15 5-year plan. We have our own advantages, but in terms of procedures, we think we can really learn from other places of the country. Our officers have been actively getting in touch with different Guangdong provincial authorities and bodies. As for the issue of think tanks, when we collect opinions from different sectors, we will get in touch with think tanks, not only the local ones, but also those in the mainland, to, as I said earlier, really learn from their experience so that we can prepare our own 5-year plan as soon as possible. Thank you. Mr. Wu Yingpeng. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretary. I want to follow up on 0157 and 1545. For 0157, it says the EOC in the past 3 years provided legal advice to complainants. The cost was approximately 724,000. It is hard to estimate legal costs before the proceedings. Will a cap be set for each application so that resources won't be allocated to 1 or 2 cases out of the many cases? And for 045, I understand that the reply says in in 2025 and 26, after reviewing effectiveness of projects, they would consider the way forward for the sponsorship scheme. Is it because there is something not so ideal? I believe the question numbers should be 038 and 045 instead.
Thank you. Ms. Linda Lam from the EOC will take the questions. Thank you. On legal assistance. The victims of discrimination can apply to the EOC for legal assistance. At the EOC, we have an internal legal team. The lawyers there will handle those applications. For more complicated cases, we brief out such cases to counsel for advice. When we do grant legal assistance, court costs arise. When we deal with complaints and grant legal assistance, we do not set a cap on the amount of assistance. We look at the substance and the fact of each case to determine whether we grant assistance and what sort of assistance we grant. We do not set a cap on the assistance for a case. When needed, we grant assistance, especially when it comes to cases where we can highlight to the public a certain piece of anti-discrimination legislations. On the other question, and it was the funding scheme, the Equal Opportunities Commission's Community Participation Funding Program on Equal Opportunities. This program was launched in 1997 as part of our community promotion effort. We review this program from time to time. That's to make sure the funding is well spent. We're making effective use of community resources. We want to make sure that we are effectively disseminating our anti-discrimination message. In 2022 to 23, under this program, we conducted a review. We used to have just general programs. In 2023, we made a distinction between general and specific programs. And for general programs, the cap went up from $50,000 to $150,000. Reviewing the program is to make sure that we keep up with the changing times with this program so that the program supports the EOC's work in promoting this anti-discrimination message. So for 2025 to 26, we launched funding programs. Those programs will come to a conclusion in the end of this year. At that point, we will review these projects. That's to make sure that the substance of these projects will help us take forward our work. So at the end of this year, there will be a review. Thank you. Mr. Lau Ka-Kang. CMAB 035. It's a question about the establishment of the GBA office. The manpower has shrunk from 33 to 30 over the years. The estimate has also shrunk. We are drawing up our 5-year plan, and we have to align with the 15th 5-year plan, and that work involves aligning, or rather integrating into the GBA. So that means work for the GBA office. So as we shrink the establishment and estimates, how do we balance such a development with the work, and how do we make sure we can keep up with the work? We make the most of the finite resources we get every year. On attracting investments and businesses in the GBA as well as harmonizing rules and mechanisms, we will not scale back the work. On the contrary, we will double down on such work. Based on the existing establishment and resources, we will make good use of the existing channels. We will also step up cooperation with different parties such as policy bureaus and bodies. When a certain bureau wants to take forward a certain policy, we can incorporate that into our work on the GBA. And that will allow us to make better use of resources. And we can put the manpower on the planning for the same project. Now we have the preparation for the 15th five-year plan. Rather, the preparation of our own five-year plan. We want to make the most of the resources we have. We just want to achieve more without adding to the establishment. Dr. Johnny Ng. Two questions, 041, my own question, and 031, the question from Ms. Carmen Khan. CMAB 041. This one has to do with coordinating and working with Taiwan. The reply is that the expenditure forms part of the estimate for the CMAB as a whole. Does that cover funding for community organizations? There was such funding a few years ago. I just wonder if there is recent funding. Recently, a delegation from Taiwan visited Beijing, and that worked out well. So I wonder if we will foster community-level ties with Taiwan. So are there resources under the CMAB for that? Now on CMAB 031, question from Ms. Carmen Khan. This is about the Privacy Commissioner. So the work covers education and checks. Now, after massive data leaks, people may fall victim to scams without being aware of it. The public is concerned. Once they are scammed, they have a hard time recovering their losses. So when we amend our legislation, can we impose a more onerous duty on organizations? Can we impose criminal liability? Can we help scam victims to recover their losses? Secretary. Many members, including Dr. Johnny Ng, brought up the recent data leaks and the scams arising from data leaks. They're concerned about this point, so I will invite the Privacy Commissioner to take that question first. On community-level exchanges between Hong Kong and Taiwan, our Taiwan office has suspended operation for the time being. But the bond between people is something we always support. So community-level exchanges are encouraged. Ms. Mandy Wong, the Deputy Secretary, can tell us more in a moment. So we will first hear from the Privacy Commissioner. On enhancing the personal data privacy ordinance, we are aware of the increase in data leaks in recent years. That's why we are looking into a mandatory notification mechanism for data leaks. The system now is voluntary instead of mandatory. Another direction is stiffer penalties and empowering the Privacy Commissioner to impose administrative fines. We need to achieve a deterrent effect for organizations. So we're doing a holistic review of the personal data privacy ordinance. We're also looking into setting up a system of administrative fines. We're looking at the practice elsewhere as we come up with our own system of administrative fines. Now, any breach of the data protection principles is not a criminal offense. There is no penalty. So our recommendation is that in the future we may bring in administrative fines for breaching the data protection principles. Deputy Secretary. Thank you. On our Taiwan office, as the Secretary said, the government closed the Economic and Trade Office in Taiwan in 2021, but that did not stop the community level exchanges between Hong Kong and Taiwan. Hong Kong residents travel to Taiwan when they run into issues or they need assistance. They can call 1823-1868 and also the gov.hk for assistance. In certain cases, we maintain working level contact. Over the past 3 years, based on the figures from the Security Bureau, the Immigration Department's Assistance to Hong Kong Residents Unit received a total of 154 requests for assistance from Hong Kong residents in Hong Kong. Based on the circumstances of these cases, appropriate assistance has been provided. Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Leung. CMAB 065 and 031. These are questions from Professor Chen Kwong and Ms. Carmen Khan. My follow-up questions are about personal data security. The cyberspace has become more complex. The Bureau and the PCPD have done much work. From the replies, we can see a surge in data leaks. In 2026 to 27, the provision will go down by 20% because of the expiry of certain projects. But we can expect more targeted scams, so I wonder if we can keep up with such trends. Now, of course, we think it's a good idea to update the guidance on data privacy. SMEs or small and medium enterprises want to get data security or data privacy right, but they lack the means. So can we come up with more user-friendly guidelines on data privacy for SMEs so that they can commit their resources in a targeted way? And can we have a more interactive approach for SMEs to get personal data privacy right? Now there are more large-scale scams. In the past, the scams took the form of guess who I am cases. Now, scammers target victims using their personal data. So the faster and the more efficient we are at fighting scams, the better we are at protecting the public. So are there faster ways for notification of leaks or scams? Secretary, the Privacy Commissioner, will take the question. We've done much on SMEs. In 2025, we worked with the Hong Kong Productivity Council on a series of training sessions for small and medium enterprises. Those sessions were popular. In March this year, we also worked with the Hong Kong Internet Registration Company. We held a summit for businesses on AI security and cybersecurity. That summit was tailored to the needs of SMEs. We provided practical advice on data protection. We also issued guidelines to SMEs. We have taken into account the needs of SMEs. So we issued infographics to SMEs. Those materials are just 2 or 3 pages containing the gist of what they should do so that SMEs will have an easier time following the guidelines. training sessions or briefing sessions aside, we also organize internal training programs. SMEs can reach out to us. Last year, we held more than 180 internal training sessions. Those sessions were bespoke arrangements. SMEs may have needs on data security or the use of AI. They may struggle to tell what to do. They can go for these tailor-made training programs. On notification, every time a business lets us know something has happened, our advice to such businesses is that they should let the data subjects right away, and we will continue to follow up. On enhancing the PDPO, we are considering a mandatory reporting mechanism.
Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you. I want to follow up on my question 067. I have two questions on this. I know that for personnel and mainland offices, in the past 3 years, it has maintained zero growth. If we want to make sure we do well in investment promotion and to dovetail with the developments in other GBA mainland cities, we probably need more manpower. So in the next year, will the administration set up more dedicated teams for attracting businesses and talents? I also want to ask, for the 2026-2027 financial year, what is the change with the overestimate for mainland offices, and how much manpower and resources do we have specifically for the dedicated teams? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Leung, for your questions. We understand there is great support for the work of the mainland offices, and they have done much work in communication, liaison, and promotion and publicity of activities. We only have 5 offices, but then I'm glad to tell you that we have already covered 31 provinces and different autonomous regions. We do not have plans to set up more mainland offices, but we will make good use of our resources. We will work with other policy bureaus and organizations so that when they have exchange activities or investment promotion activities in the mainland offices will work with them to provide support to them, or even co-organize certain events. For example, the Global Task Force. The mainland offices are part of the task force. So mainland offices can really use the experience and feedback from different groups. We can also liaise with different organizations, think tanks, as well as authorities in the mainland for our promotion work. With these, we can make good use of our existing resources and our network of mainland offices and liaison units. As for what the member asked about 2026 and 2027, we have an increase of expenditure of 5.5%. Specifically, this is on manpower. We do see an increase in operational costs. It may not be a significant increase, but as I said earlier, we can make good use of our resources, and with synergy, we can expand our capabilities. Thank you. Mr. Nick Chen, I have 2 questions. My first question is on 023, and the second one is on 051. For the first question, I would first like to express my appreciation of the work of the dedicated teams. I want to ask if the latest budget has reserved funding to attract right now the children of Hong Kongers living in the mainland to come back to Hong Kong for development. For my second question, which is on 051, I very much agree with what Dr. Thomas So said about having some regulation for AI ethics. Will there be legislation promulgated? Will the CMAB work with the ITIB, especially the Digital Policy Office, to make sure there is good division of work and proper use of resources? Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for the questions. About the work of the dedicated teams, let me first thank the member for expressing his appreciation. As I said earlier, we'll make good use of our existing manpower arrangements and try to work with, say, Invest Hong Kong to achieve synergy with coordination with different bureaus. On investment promotion, we have 384 new projects to be generated, and with our existing manpower, we should be able to meet the relevant targets. As for personal data privacy ordinance review, we have a cross-departmental working group led by the Department of Justice to coordinate different bureaus in their review of use of AI. I'll perhaps ask the Commissioner to provide more information. Thank you, Chair. Actually, the Secretary has already made it quite clear. The DOJ is leading a cross-departmental working group, and when asked, the PCPD will provide professional advice to the group. The PCPD enforces the Personal Data Privacy Ordinance, and under relevant law, we have a role and certain functions to exercise. Since 2021, we have already some guidelines on how to make use of AI to ensure there is proper personal data protection. Our role does not overlap with that of other government bodies. Thank you. Ms. Michelle Tang. Thank you, Chair. I want to follow up on my question 052. For mainland offices, they have been attracting talents and enterprises to Hong Kong. What challenges have they faced? In future, how can they enhance their work in this area? Thank you. Secretary, thank you, member, for the questions on the work of mainland offices, for example, investment promotion and helping enterprises go global. I will ask the Deputy Secretary to provide more information because she has actual experience working in the mainland, doing relevant work. For mainlanders wanting to come to Hong Kong for development, their greatest challenge is that they don't have a full understanding of the circumstances of Hong Kong. For example, the legal system and other areas. We have 16 points of contact in the mainland. We have held through the different contact points activities such as seminars, talks, as well as some sharing sessions by those living in Hong Kong to tell people about the life in Hong Kong. This offers basic understanding about Hong Kong. For the specific areas, for example, business, or if one wants to set up a company in Hong Kong, Invest Hong Kong can provide relevant services. So we do have a one-stop service hub for such work. Thank you. Ms. Tang, anything to add? None. Ms. Judy Chen, thank you. I want to follow up on my questions 8, 15, and 16. We all want to make sure we do well in tying in with the country's 15 5-year plan, but according to the replies, it seems that the office in Hong Kong, well, the Commissioner for Development in the GBA, the work seems to have an overlap with work of other government bodies. The Commissioner has attended some luncheons and activities. I think we can have performance indicators such as how many people we have been able to attract to the Greater Bay Area. I also want to ask the question on 062. Why is it that we are spending more on the election committee election than the district council election, and that's a significant increase? On question 063, I see for some polling stations there were only 2 or 5 voters. So why were polling stations set up in those areas? Will there be a review in future? Thank you. Secretary, I will answer the question on electoral arrangements first, and then I will answer the question on Commissioner for Development in the GBA. For, say, the LegCo general election last year, we have introduced some accommodating arrangements. Before implementation, we have done much work, but we won't be able to actually know the results before implementation. So we set up some dedicated polling stations that did not have that many voters. So it demonstrates there is a result that contradicts our expectations. But then for some dedicated polling stations, they do see quite a number of voters going. So we can't really erase the good that we see with such arrangements. I will ask the Deputy Secretary to supplement more information on this in future. I would just want to say that we will still have some facilitation arrangements for the next election, but we will also learn from the experience of last year's election. I will now ask my colleague to supplement information. Mr. C, thank you. Chair, thank you, Ms. Shen, for the questions. As Secretary said, we will continuously enhance the relevant measures to provide facilitation to voters for the 2026-27 estimates. For the for the election committee election, there is much funding allocated for that purpose. The district council election will only take place at the end of next year, so the expenses will be detailed in next year's budget. I also want to answer the question on the Commissioner for the Development of the GBA. We want to make sure to tie in with the development of the GBA and make sure it dovetails with the country's National 15 5-year plan as well as the 5-year plan of the city. The Greater Bay Area development is actually a key initiative in the country's 5-year plan. We want to make sure we align in terms of rules and institutions, and we also want to expand into other areas such as finance and INT.
It's 12:29 now. So, Mr. Kingsley Wong, please adopt the standard form to send your questions in after the meeting. So we will conclude this session now. The next session will start at 2 p.m. Thank you.